A very, very good evening to all of you. And thank you once again. I know there is sincere webinar fatigue, but thank you. And I'm glad that you have joined because you see value in the topic that is going to be discussed today. MLF is the social entrepreneurial wing of the MCCI that focuses on women. And since some years, a lot of events have happened either to sort of respect, show respect to women who've done well in their fields, to highlight them, and also to encourage others. This series on solopreneurs is something that we thought of because we see that going online and starting businesses has become the order of the day. Everyone's very got that entrepreneurial spirit in themselves. They want to do something, they want to go out and make a mark. How do you do it as a sole person? You're sort of the peon and the CEO of your company. So how do you take on the various functions and roles that a fledgling business has to offer? And how do you make sure that your skill sets are suited? How do you know when to go online, which platforms to look into? We started this series with a session on Canva, which was actually a skill building workshop. And now we have a very special speaker with us today, Mr. Sandeep Tibrewal, who's actually a friend, and he's an ISB alum. So I really thank Sandeep for giving us his time today. I'm just quickly going to introduce him. Sandeep is the founder of GBC, a platform for women micro entrepreneurs. He is a serial entrepreneur, and being a father of two energetic daughters, he strongly believes that both men and women have the collective responsibility of building a more women-friendly and equitable world. He is the founder of airvidya.com and has earlier worked as the chief product manager at 9.9 Media and vice president at Wishbook. His first startup, resolvequery.com, was acquired by 9.9 Media. He did his MBA from ISB and was awarded ISB Torchbearers Award. He also obtained an MSc from the Arizona State University, USA. Under the Corporate Leaders Program, he represented ASU at symposiums held in Australia and New Zealand. I find it really amazing that Sandeep is so pro sort of propagating women entrepreneurship and believes that women must be supported and should be pushed ahead. So very proud to have him actually talk to the MLF Ladies Forum today. Over to you, Sandeep.
Thank you so much, Stigna, for your kind words. And I was truly looking forward to today's session and having the opportunity to interact via the MCCI Ladies Forum. And a salute from my end to all the multitasking women. They are the care providers for children. They are the care providers for the elderly in our families. And obviously they are venturing out, working and adding to the family income as well. So hats off to all of you. So over the past about 4 years or so, we have interacted with hundreds of women entrepreneurs during various events that we have been organizing for women entrepreneurs, especially in Calcutta. And these are some of the most common motivations that they say to start their business, right? Means one of the common reasons that they say is that they are really passionate about something and they have started their particular venture at a small scale, and gradually it is taking shape. For some, it could be adding confidence and self-respect, right? So there could be different reasons, and each person has a unique journey. And for some of them may face adversities in life. Some of them could be a single parent, and adding and taking care of family income has become a priority for them. So for each person, they have their own unique story, but these are some of the common motivation factors that we uh, observed. And obviously, few women entrepreneurs also mentioned that they came across a particular problem and they were not able to identify any product or service in the market, and hence they started their venture. So many of you would be either doing, say, you might be into an apparel business or a jewelry business, or you might in some technology related business, or you could be into education services. So but for each business, it's extremely important to create some kind of differentiation. You might be in an overcrowded market, you might be competing with various larger players, various mid-sized organizations, and very large number of micro entrepreneurs as well, right? But it is extremely important. So for example, if someone is running an apparel's boutique, so can you create some differentiators? Like, can you focus only on the plus size market? Because there is a large market for plus size apparels and there are very few providers. So if one can stay away from the uh, means temptation to sell everything, but focus only on plus sized apparels, I think it could be a good differentiation. Another could be trying to build virtual trial rooms for your customers, right? Another one could be having a separate child play area or babysitter while the mothers are shopping in your store, right? So you need to think about various aspects, and means one can even leverage technology to do various live sessions on Facebook. Maybe it could be from your terrace or garden where you are showing your products in a natural environment, right? That itself could be some differentiation for you. Now, um, I don't know, is it feasible for people to communicate via chat in case I'm asking any questions, Snigdha, or should it be more of a mono dialogue?
Either ways, I mean, we have a few participants who are upgraded as panelists. So whatever you would prefer. Yeah.
Right. So let me share some of the most common objectives of digital marketing. And meanwhile, I would love to have anyone respond to further objectives if they can think of any additional objective for digital marketing campaign. I would love to have their inputs via the chat. So, and if someone has a comment, they can probably unmute themselves and speak up as well. All right. So maybe that will be easier if they can unmute and speak out and ask any question if they want. So having a branding and awareness around your products and services is extremely crucial, right? Various companies have branding and awareness as one of their objectives for digital marketing campaigns. But then obviously branding and awareness itself is not enough. One has to get a lot of traffic to one's website or a lot of mobile app installs if they have the mobile apps for their products offerings, right? So traffic, mobile app installs, and then it has to then graduate into leads and sales as well, right? If someone is into an automobile business, then obviously the transaction will not happen online, but the web interface will act as a lead generator, which the offline sales team then can follow up and try and convert those customers into their stores, and then so that sales can happen after the test drive. But if the ticket size is small, then online transactions itself can happen and sales can be converted. Can anyone share or means any other objective that one can think of for digital marketing? Means anyone can means unmute and share their thoughts in case anyone has any input.
I mean, coming from an industry which doesn't have a product on offer, like I would say that even just creating awareness about a particular cause, that could be done through digital marketing.
Right. So that comes under awareness to some extent,
Yes.
right? Creating an
Yes.
awareness about your
Yeah.
offering.
Yeah.
But also what people often forget is that they need to engage their existing customers. So customer engagement or after sales support via the digital channels is also extremely crucial, right? Because acquiring new customers is important, but we have to derive repeat sales from existing customers. And that is extremely important, right? Also, for example, in e-commerce websites like Amazon or Flipkart, customer preferences can be stored while they are browsing various products. If a particular customer likes yellow products and they are mainly searching products in the price range of say 1500 to 2500. So the next time they visit Amazon, means Amazon will derive this past history of the browsing behavior and showcase it to the customers. So capturing personal preference is extremely important, and also ensuring that you engage your existing customers via repeat communication across different digital channels so that you can sell more products to them, right? So this image is pretty interesting. For example, if a parent who has an infant born, right? If one of the parents purchase something from Amazon, then Amazon can potentially ensure that you continue to buy newer products for the child over the next 10, 20 years, maybe, or 10, 15 years, till the child then can purchase on their own as well, right? So customer lifetime value is extremely crucial. Having a clarity regarding your target audience is very crucial too, right? And when you are defining your target audience, you have to think about the age group of your customers. Majority of the customers might be falling into a particular age group. Whether you are targeting both the genders or one particular gender is your majority customer. If you are a local business, if you're having stores in a particular city or in a particular area within a city, then you have to spend your marketing budget in a highly focused manner. And that is the advantage of digital over traditional print media or radio business or TV channels, because those are mass advertising channels. Versus digital, you can focus and pinpoint your target audience wherever you want. And then you need to understand the customer purchasing power by dividing your products and services into various buckets. An example classification could be low ticket size, mid ticket size, or high ticket size, depending on the pricing of the products or services. And one needs to understand their customer behavior and preferences, right? For example, if someone is in a travel business, right, then, and within travel also, they are into luxury travel, focusing more on holiday packages for different islands like Maldives or Bangkok or various holiday destinations, right? Switzerland. And they are mainly into luxury segment. Then one can think of that, okay, what are the other things that my customers do? Maybe they play golf, right? Maybe they purchase luxury cars. So I might advertise in an automobile portal, and there my competition from travel industry would be less. So I'll get the mind share, right? Or I might somehow try to reach out to the golfers community in a smart and interesting manner. So one has to understand the customer behavior and preferences and define their audience as well. So this is a small example. So cost of a product says rupees 1,500 and the selling price is rupees 2,000. So obviously the margin is rupees 500. So what do you think should be the marketing spend to sell one such product on an average? Any thoughts on this?
I mean, what we've learned, is maybe 8 to 10, 6 to 8 to 10%. I don't know. I mean, that's what the books told us.
Right. So
Mansi, I don't know if you have any different views. Mansi is actually into, products and gift curation.
I would at least like to keep all the 500 to myself.
okay, you want only referral business. Mansi is interested only in referral business, no marketing.
No. So we do at times spend on say Facebook or on some of these where we advertise and particular areas. So like we want Calcutta, we want Baliganj in Calcutta. So we do pay up at times for such places also on Insta and Facebook.
Sure.
Whereas whenever we've paid up for an ad in any kind of a newspaper or something, it's actually not given us much business.
Okay.
Unnati says 10% of the profits.
Okay. So it will vary from case to case, but you'd be surprised to know that means there are various aggressive companies willing to spend even 500 rupees or even 700 rupees to sell that product. Okay. So when I had started an e-commerce venture quite a number of years ago, right? And we started, obviously some referral sales were fine, but obviously to scale the business, one has to advertise and market. So our initial customer acquisition cost to acquire the first customer via paid advertising on Google AdWords, it cost us about rupees 7,000 to sell an ethnic wear sari online and have the person pay via credit card or online payment. Okay. And obviously, after a lot of optimization, a lot of effort, we were able to gradually reduce that cost of acquiring one customer to in the range of rupees 700, 800. But still, that is quite a bit, right? Spending 700 or 800 rupees to acquire one customer to purchase a product of yours, it's extremely challenging. But various companies who are aggressive, who have deep pockets, they go and adopt such strategies. And the reason also is, again, customer lifetime value, right? Because this is only one transaction that you are spending for. But after that, the customer is there for you to service on a lifetime basis. If in future from the same customer, you are able to means get 10 transactions, that 700 rupees or 500 rupees is well justified. But yeah, if your service or the product quality or the service quality is not great, and if repeat sales do not happen in future, then you are in a bad shape because you have already overspent, means beyond your costs, right? And beyond your revenues that or the profit margins that you were trying to make. So I hope this point is extremely important and well observed, because customer acquisition cost has to be less than customer lifetime value. It need not be less than your contribution margin of one transaction. So you have to see, if you have a history of your customers, you can take out the average number of transactions that your customers do in a year, so that you can plan your marketing budget accordingly and monitor your customer acquisition costs. And various micro entrepreneurs at times kind of ignore the numbers, right? We do not calculate the numbers on an ongoing basis or certain metrics. But if you can note down at least few important metrics, it will help your business cause. And retention cost is much lesser, right? Because to engage with your existing customers, you will use email marketing or SMS marketing, or if you are engaging them on WhatsApp groups or Facebook as well, those costs would be relatively less because you're not advertising to reach out to that existing audience.
Sandeep ji, I'm Satya Prakash from Literacy India. I have a question with regard to the usage of chatbots, especially AI bots, because we are spending on SEO and doing a lot of marketing. When
Right,
somebody visits our website, nobody
right,
is there to take care, because
right,
smaller organizations like us, we can't afford to have people sitting 24/7. So, what is
right,
your thought on that? Because it also helps, engage customer to some extent,
right.
wherein this helps us to engage the customer, as well as it gives priority to the customer. So what is your thought? And spending is not much. What we understand currently, we have been approached by one company, so we are thinking of taking a decision on this. So if you can help us taking that decision.
Sure. So uh, I will answer this question for sure, but I would also request the more common questions to come towards the end. But obviously, if you have a relevant question to the topic that I'm discussing, it will help me complete the set of slides and my presentation. But to quickly answer your question regarding chatbots for a small organization, just ensure that you somehow initially capture the contact details of your customers. Okay, that is extremely crucial via a form or your chatbot requests for the mobile number, so that uh, they can engage, your team can engage with them on WhatsApp or over phone at a later basis. Because if chats asks too many questions and the customer leaves, it's a lost opportunity for you. Okay. But if the first or second question itself is trying to capture their contact details, now you can have the chat ask more questions and try to solve their problem automatically. Otherwise, at least you have the database, you have the contacts so that you can reach out at your convenience. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Sandeep, if I may just take 1 minute,
Sure.
Akash has joined. So Akash is the president of the Merchant Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So I would just welcome him to say a few words.
Hi, Akash. Good to see you.
Hello. Hi, everybody. It's very, very heartening that we are having this session, especially given the entire focus that our entire economy is having on creating multiple sources of micro entrepreneurs. And I don't think we could have somebody who's better suited to teach us on the new technologies and how to use them than Sandeep. And I for one know him personally for more than a decade now, so I'm sure we'll all get to learn a lot. And I'm apologies for being a little late. I was in another meeting and I just couldn't join in earlier. So but please continue. I do not want to interrupt the flow.
Thank you so much, Akash. So yeah, so I've covered few introductory points regarding digital marketing, defining the objectives of digital marketing campaigns, understanding customer lifetime value and customer acquisition cost, right? And we also discussed briefly regarding how to define your customer segments. And now we'll be covering various few topical topics for today. That is how to means what are the various things you can do online to try and grow from small to mighty, right? And there are three main things that I'll be discussing today. One is trying to build social media communities and engaging in social media communities. And also we'll look at some case studies regarding some viral campaigns. And next, obviously, search engine optimization basics and listing services, components of e-commerce business, and few generic suggestions from my end as well that we'll be discussing towards the end. So this is the flow for remaining portion of the session today. So someone has started a new business, a woman entrepreneur or a micro entrepreneur has started a business. So the first step, I think one should leverage the power of 50, and 50 is a number I've just chosen. It could be 40, it could be 30, depending on your connects, right? Number of connects that you can reach out to, means close family members, friends, relatives, whoever can give you some feedback about your products and services. They could be your paid first, some of them could be your first paid customers, or you might offer to some of them a free offering just as a sampler and get some honest feedback from them. But this is extremely crucial to have a group of such 40-50 individuals on WhatsApp, and they will not mind. Means if you reach out to them on an ongoing basis once or twice a week, I'm sure they are your well-wishers and they will not mind that at all. And you will and pick up the phone, talk to them. It is not about just sending them advertisements, but also interacting with them and getting their feedback and honest feedback. Tell them that don't sugarcoat, be harsh. Just think like a normal customer. Tell me, is my pricing right? Tell me is whether my product or service features on the dot, right? Or what new features as a customers would they expect, so that we can have those incorporated in future. So this power of 50 would work well for you to get started. Then there are various existing communities in social media. And if you can be a leader or the admin and start off such communities, excellent. I will be discussing two type of communities. One is branded communities, that a community that you build around your brand, or generic communities. Like if someone is running a restaurant or has a catering business, then for that particular person to start a Kolkata Foodies Club is amazing, right? And so many people are searching on Facebook or in different channels to join such clubs. And uh, one such club that I've highlighted has 33,000 members. It could have been a passion hobby. It may not be related to any particular business, but businesses can also lead the way to form such communities and be the admins and leaders of such communities. And so that they can, means obviously, a lot of neutral discussion should happen in such communities. And occasionally there should be advertisement slots opened up, not only for their business, but for others too. Another example that I'm sharing is, say, weekend tours from Kolkata, right? Again, from a perspective of a travel company, means even if they spend, obviously one cannot advertise and grow groups on Facebook. One can advertise on Facebook page and gain a large followership of fans on Facebook page. But Facebook groups normally grow organically via referrals and word of mouth, right? So it is a community of 6 lakh plus members, 603,000, right? 6 lakh plus members are there in such a community. People are fond of traveling. They're looking for options to travel from Calcutta to nearby places. So one has to think that what would be of value for your potential target segment and what can you offer them for free, right? Then one can also join various business networking forums. And these are hybrid in nature. They might be organizing a lot of offline events, but they are digitally connected 24/7 by 365 as well. Be it BNI. BNI is a great business networking forum, right? And they have breakfast meetings every week. And but obviously the majority of the participants are men. I'm giving an approximate split. It could vary. It could be 70/30, it could be 60/40, but I think it would be in the region of 70/30 or 80/20 for men and women participation. And we, when interacting with various women entrepreneurs, felt the need of a community for women entrepreneurs only, right? And we organized a lot of physical meetings, but after Corona, we obviously turned more digital and started organizing more of Zoom meetings. So 2 Zoom meetings per month and 1 meeting every quarter would be a good way for us to go ahead as well. And it is meant exclusively for women entrepreneurs. And again, all of them are digitally connected 24/7 on Facebook, on WhatsApp, and they help each other out. And means it's amazing to say that we have kind of facilitated around 70 lakhs worth of transactions for the women entrepreneurs, which is a sizable amount. And also we started WhatsApp group only communities for women entrepreneurs. We have multiple WhatsApp groups and it's a free community. For GBC, it's a very nominal annual fee that is associated. But for WBC, Women Business Community, these are free WhatsApp groups wherein groups of women entrepreneurs come together, share their creatives, and give each other business. Right? So what such networking forums provide is a large virtual sales team. Your fellow members are in a way promoting your business in their network. Otherwise, your network is individually limited to 50, 100, 500 maybe. But if you become a part of 50 such individuals, so 50 into 100 becomes 5,000 all of a sudden. So all of a sudden, without spending too much money, you have expanded your network via becoming participants of such forums, right? Now, pointers for a generic community like Foodies Club or Travel Club, right? It could be from Gurgaon, it could be means best places to visit in India, right? Means it could be any theme that might be related to your business, but the name should not include the brand name. If you are trying to build a generic community, do not include the brand name of a company as part of the name of such a community, then obviously it is not going to grow in a rapid manner. Community should be valuable for the members. It should not be meant as a channel just to push advertisements. We'll be talking about branded communities after this, but these are neutral communities which should involve active participation of all the members. There should be as much conversation between members as possible. Obviously, if you are the admin of such communities or the leaders of such communities, you will naturally become influencers in these communities. And if you are opening up advertisement slots for your business, be fair to other members who might have similar businesses and allow them also to kind of promote their business. That is how the community will actually be very fair and transparent, and it will do really well. Now, pointers for a brand community. The community name should obviously be part of the brand name should be included in the community name, right? Because this is with a very clear focus that it is meant only for your customers predominantly, or your potential customers, either your potential customers or your existing customers. And you will obviously be creating a Facebook page, a Twitter handle, or even maybe an Instagram account and handle as well. So it all depends on what is your bandwidth, or if you have a large team, then you can have presence across different social media channels. But if your bandwidth is limited, just focus on one or two channels only, because you will not have time to engage in all the channels. Okay. And most of the official handles will also be connected with advertisement platforms so that you can spend money and gain a large followership, or gain a large number of fans for your handles or a page. So one has to spend money, because obviously initially you will try and invite 40, 50 people, 100 people. If 100 people you invite, maybe 20 will join, remaining might ignore as well, right? So ultimately, to grow a sizable community, you might have to spend money on such communities.
So, Sandeep, if I may interrupt, is there
Sure.
some kind of inflection point? Like, when do you know that it's now time to start spending money? Should you start, should you have reached a certain number of followers, or how do you kind of wait it out?
It all depends on your marketing plan, your growth plans, right? What is your roadmap for your company, right?
Right.
If you have the if you have the resources in place, then earlier the better, right? That you have tested your viable product or service with your known referral network, and once your product is in a good shape, or your service in a good shape, and you are ready to scale, your team is in place, then you should start marketing and spending your dollars on advertisements.
Right.
Right? Now, regarding content, obviously building community is not enough. You need to engage your communities as well, right? And for community engagement, you need content. Content could be images, it could be articles, it could be videos, and there is so much content out there. Means how much more can the consumers absorb? But ultimately, you need to engage. So either you do original content, or you leverage existing third-party content and give the credit as well, right? Suppose if one is in a travel business and there is a review of a particular hotel in TripAdvisor, right? So they can share the review along with the link and credit of TripAdvisor, right, to their community. Obviously, if you have a large budget for content development, no brainers. You spend as much as possible and you have a content team and you generate the content. But for smaller businesses, spending too much on content may not be a great idea as well. So again, you can do 50% original, you can do 50% third party content, but the third party content that you share has to be contextual to your target audience, right? If it is a travel community, obviously sharing about financial news to your travel community would not be of interest, right? So just ensure that it is contextual and give credit to the source. Do not copy paste someone else's content and publish it as yours, right? Because if someone identifies it, the company might sue you, or even if the customers realize that they read it elsewhere, right? Then it in fact creates a negative impact for your brand, that
So,
these guys are not even giving credit to someone else's content.
so Sandeep, I have a question here.
Sure.
Like you said, if it's something with the travel and tourism, you can tag or you can take content from the travel tourism. I'm sorry, what site did you just mention?
So you can, if they have a
TripAdvisor,
blog, for
yeah.
example.
Yeah. So suppose I send a link for the TripAdvisor thing. But so do I also need to connect with TripAdvisor first to begin with before I post it on my thing?
I don't think so, because means media companies or means any content creator or publisher, I think they are more than happy if people are sharing their content, right?
Okay.
Because it is giving them additional audience, because it's a win-win situation for both parties, right? They also are now getting a reach of your audience. In a way, you're helping them. In an ideal, perfect world scenario for large corporates, they will be generating 100% authentic content by themselves, right? But just to balance it out and means to cut costs for smaller organizations, leveraging third-party content does make sense. And I'm sure publishers would not mind, because you are giving your audience to them. They should be more than happy as well, right? And obviously, one should monitor the engagement rates on an ongoing basis. The the definition of the engagement rate, say for a Facebook post, would be the number of likes plus comments plus shares plus clicks divided by the reach of a particular post into 100. It is usually represented as a percentage. So say for example, a Facebook page, you have built a followers of 1 lakh. Okay. Earlier, in the very early days, when Facebook page had been launched, it was a new phenomenon. And if you had built a community of 1 lakh, Facebook, whenever you used to post, Facebook used to allow it to reach to at least 70,000, 80,000 people. But now, if even if you have a Facebook page of 1 lakh audience, whenever you make a post, if the post is really attractive and uh, it is liked by the audience, it might reach to 5,000 people. Or if it is not of great quality, it might reach only 1,500 or 2,000 people. Because now Facebook expects you to boost the post as well and give them more revenue, right? But to get around the problem, you have to give the mandate to your content team that, hey, you have to generate really interesting content, so my engagement rates are high. Because if the engagement rate is high, it will reach to a larger audience. And obviously try and respond to all the queries, even if it is sales related queries, or if it is after sales queries. Respond. People get offended that no one is attending to their queries from a brand page, because the expectations are high, right? So try and respond to all the inquiries being generated. Now, what makes content go viral? These are some of the common things which can potentially make your content go viral. Does the content has some humor or funny element in it, right? That people enjoy and share? Does it have any emotional element to it, that it really tugs your heart and people are kind of forced into sharing or leaving a comment behind? Is it invoking the greed element of human beings? Means, are you gifting 100 iPhones, right? We come across so many spams as well. And means, if you're organizing any contest or any free giveaways, ensure that you deliver, you capture all the photographs of the giveaways that your customers are getting, and then publish those online. Because there are so many scams as well that people will lose trust otherwise. That even if you are delivering the contest prizes behind the scene, you are being genuine. But unless people see it in your social media channels, that trust has to be established further, right? Then addressing a social cause, right? Because if your brand is also associated with a particular social cause, I think it has great long-term benefits. And many companies have undervalued this element. Think about the Tata brands, right? For Tata Salt or various Tata brands have leveraged social causes to promote their brands. And it helps obviously for both the objectives. It helps the social cause and it is giving a rub-off effect for your brand as well. So I think more and more organizations should associate their brand with one particular social cause that they are really passionate about and make it a long-term thing, not a one-time campaign. Unique stories, right? If you are telling a particular unique story which consumers have not come across very frequently, the chances of the particular post or campaign going viral is higher. Or it could be any combination of the above factors. And obviously, if some theme has already gone viral in the past, then one can piggyback on similar themes as well. So all of you remember this ice bucket challenge, right? It was very, very popular. It became viral, and many celebrities had participated in it as well, which obviously added to the virality, means the viral effect. So, but can any one of you recollect that why was this campaign launched?
I actually cannot.
Okay. So the campaign overtook the cause in this case, right? It turned out into be a fun because the fun element was there, right? So it added to the cause getting viral, and means even Bill Gates, Tim Cook, Mark Zuckerberg, Satya Nadella, Larry Page, various CEOs, various celebrities, many of them participated in the contest, and it added to the viral effect. And the campaign was launched to promote a social cause regarding awareness of the motor neuron disease. Okay. And this campaign actually generated quite a handsome amount of donation as well for various organizations working for this disease or towards the research of the disease, right? So, and 3 million donors were there. There were small donors, there were larger donors as well, but it was an interesting campaign which was really successful. Let me try and play the video and see whether the speed will work well or not. I think with Zoom on it's a challenge for me to stream videos. So what I'll do is I'll try and share some of the links with Snigdha later, and she can share it further with most of you. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
So in fact, I'm sure some of you might have already watched various flash mob dances. Jet had leveraged it on an ongoing basis. I think during Holi time, they had a flash mob dance within the aircraft. Then at various airports, at Delhi airport, at Chennai airport, they have conducted flash mob dances as well. And I think this is a very interesting theme, and it will work on more occasions than not, right? Even if you are a smaller organization, and if you take the effort to organize such a flash mob dance in a crowded place, it will create some buzz for your brand for sure, right? And this particular theme has been used by different brands, and I was looking at the various views it kind of absorbed on the YouTube channels, There was a Dubai airport flash mob dance which had garnered more than 11 million views. Then there was a flash mob dance by Dance Mafia, 7.5 million, SpiceJet 6 million. So the numbers are pretty huge, right? In case uh, in CST, I think in the railway station also there was a mob dance once. Then I came across this very interesting apparel boutique by the name of the Indian Ethnic Company. Have some of you heard about this? Right?
They upload dance videos, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So they means usually first time I came across the dance videos in one of the short videos on Facebook. Okay. And then I looked up their Facebook page, and obviously they were promoting their products on a regular basis. And once in a while, they have in fact partnered with a choreographer, Vaishali Kalanjay, right? So it's a great, interesting partnership. Means, and they are doing ethnic Indian dance. It's not like the products are Indian, ethnic wear, right? And the dance is ethnic as well. It gels well, and it garners a lot of views for them and builds the brand in a very nice and cost-effective manner. So now means you can take it a step further. You can associate with stand-up comics, right? You can do a tie-up with singers, with choreographers, like in this case. So it will means be promoting both the people, right? The entertainment industry as well as the brand. Means so a lot of interesting things can be done. And suppose you outsource your viral campaign or means your postings to any agency. No agency can guarantee viral campaigns, right? No one can guarantee. They can means put the best step forward and be genuine about it, but whether the campaign is going viral will be known only after you have published your campaign post or the advertisement to a sizable audience, right? It might be a damn squib, right? It may not work well with the audience despite the best efforts, or it might really work well and start going viral. And once you have identified that, hey, this particular post or the advertisement campaign is going viral, try and put more money into it, right? You have to amplify that effect so that the return is very high. Because if you don't try and amplify it across different channels, then obviously it will die down very quickly. If you can have some celebs endorse those campaigns or share it in their network, that will be acting another form of amplification as well. Now coming to the second topic for today's discussion was around search engine optimization and listing services. Means it sounds very technical. Please do not means be scared about the topic. It is very logical, means it's common sense. Once you have the basic understanding, obviously the technical team will implement the details and work the details. But as a client or as the business owner, it's very important to understand the important aspects about it, right? Because so many people, so many customers are searching actively on Google. And if your products and services can start appearing in the first page in the search result of Google, you can get enormous amount of business. Right? So I've taken this interesting example of, say, Google has this task of ranking lakhs and millions of web pages. And suppose LinkedIn launches Google, means a search engine for human experts. Okay. So what would LinkedIn do to identify the right expert for the right expertise or right category? Suppose they have 1 lakh initial panel of experts and they have a search engine for human experts. So obviously there are various factors that LinkedIn will adopt to identify the right expert for the right search query or for the right search criteria. If someone is uh, typing in for a mobile development expert, then obviously LinkedIn will look at its database of those 1 lakh experts and identify the right factors and then show the results of the experts. Correct? And Google is trying to do the exact same thing. Means from millions of web pages, it is trying to showcase the best results based on its search engine algorithm, right? So for the human search, obviously LinkedIn would look at the work experience of the expert panel that is it has. They will look at the educational qualification of the experts it has, right? So that is related to knowledge about the experts, right? Because that would be a crucial factor to list out the right expert. Then maybe it can adopt an artificial intelligence program to evaluate a video interview of all its expert and look at their communication skills, personality traits, etiquettes, how well groomed they are, whether they are presentable or not. These are some of the presentation layer of the experts. Not very, very crucial, but in today's world, presentation also is very crucial, right? It's important. And then LinkedIn may look at the connections of the experts, right? For example, Snigdha is there in the panel as an expert, Mansi is there as an expert in the panel, and say I'm also there as an expert in the panel, right? And I am connected to 100 people, 100 normal people with normal means status and know-how, right? And say Snigdha is connected to Amitabh Bachchan, Amir Khan, Shah Rukh Khan. She's also connected to Brad Pitt, right? And Mansi might be connected to Sachin Tendulkar and Shane Warne, right? Or she might be connected to some more sports person, or she might be connected to Joe Biden, right? So in such cases, whose connections are more valuable, which is a more powerful signal to the LinkedIn algorithm or the search engine algorithm, right? Obviously, Snigdha and Mansi will stand a better chance because of their of the quality of the connections, right? So Google is doing exactly the same thing, right? If I break it into three most crucial factors, it is search engine optimization is all about content, which equates to the knowledge of a person, right? So what content does your web page have, right? Or your website have? Your website might have hundreds of web pages. So what is the content of your web pages? That is obviously the most crucial factor, right? On-page optimization is your presentation layer. Are you implementing the best practices as advised by the Google engineering team? Obviously, Google is never going to reveal the exact weightages of its algorithm. No one can guarantee, again, because only the senior most engineers of Google will be knowing the exact factors or the weightage of the factors. And I've simplified only in means these high level 3 factors. Actually, there might be 100 or 200 factors, because under each higher level factor, there would be many sub factors as well. Okay. And the exact weightages would be known only to the Google engineering team. And obviously it's a hidden algorithm that they have, which they must have patented, and they keep on refining over the years. And the third element, that is the off-page optimization, is similar to connections. Okay, what other important websites are linking to your website? That is what off-page optimization is all about. If your website is being linked by ndtv.com, cnn.com, right, which means your website is certainly doing some right things to be in such company, versus if your website is only hardly has few connections or linkages from other websites, and those also are from unknown websites, which means it is not in great company, and hence the value associated would be less in the eyes of Google algorithm. And like I mentioned, don't be worried about which factor is more important. Maybe Google might be giving 50% weightage to content, or 33% or 20% or 10%. It might be changing the weightages, means for different periods at a different months as well, right? So it's an ongoing process for them to refine their search algorithm. And content, if it is good, of great quality, obviously many websites might try to link to your content or share your content, and your content might give you dual benefits. For search engine optimization, it will be useful, and it might give you a viral effect in social media as well. And nowadays, I think India has this unique proposition to develop content in vernacular languages as well. And various companies have grabbed onto this opportunity. Okay. One can develop content in Bengali, right? Means in Tamil, in Telugu, in various Indian languages. Digit is a tech publishing uh, platform, and they offer not only in English but in all other Indian languages as well. The Better India is a great example of, means, positive news stories, and both the social causes there, and it has done really well over the years as well. And one should not be hiding good quality content behind logins and passwords, right? Unless it's a paid content, and obviously then you want to screen it behind. But otherwise, your content should be visible to the outside world and to the bots of Google, the spiders, because only then they will be able to index your pages and show it in the search results. The presentation layer or the on-page optimization factor, I will not talk about all the factors, but say, for example, the title itself, the title of your article, that will appear in the search result of Google also, right? People will read your article title and then click on your Google search result. If the keywords of your query is part of your title, then the chances of it appearing in the search result is higher. So there is keyword analysis phase. Obviously, it is a very in-depth, and maybe even 6 hours of discussion or 8 hours or 10 hours of discussion can be spent on search engine optimization. It's a very detailed topic, but I'm just trying to highlight few crucial points, right? And off-page optimization factor, like I discussed earlier, that what kind of company or linkages your website has. Have you developed partnerships with various brands so that they are linking to your website? Have you put in that effort? Or is your content so great that hundreds of bloggers are talking about your content and they're linking to your website? So just like we discussed that you want to share TripAdvisor's content or feedback or review on in your social media communities. So can you be a TripAdvisor potentially, so that the world around you can share your content and hence benefit the search engine optimization and a lot of traffic your way, send a lot of traffic your way.
Sandeep, over here, if you are new, and maybe you could be into product or service, would linking testimonials of your customers, happy customers, and sharing their LinkedIn profile links help?
It will definitely have some value, but the challenge is that you are giving links to other websites.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe a smarter thing would be that if your client has websites, right, can you acquire a link to your website requesting your client?
Okay.
with
Yeah.
via some kind of relationship, right?
Mm.
Suppose you are in the travel business and your client might be in a food business. So you have to think of some synergy, a common synergy, so that
Absolutely.
your client is interested in giving a link to your website. That will
Yes.
bring more value.
More value. Yeah.
All right. Testimonials are important because having client feedback on your website with the visitors who will visit your website, they would love to review, means read the client reviews. But from the search engine optimization perspective, you need to have more and more external links linking to your website.
Sure.
Then there are tools these are free tools. Google Webmaster or Google Search Console tool is there. Google Analytics tool is there. Moz is a third party, not a Google owned tool, but they have some free versions and then they have some paid versions as well. Now for smaller businesses, obviously search engine optimization is a long-term marketing strategy. You cannot achieve result in 1 or 2 months. Okay. It is definitely a long-term strategy, and various smaller companies do not have the time nor the expertise to invest in search engine optimization. But they can leverage listing services, search traffic. If your business is listed on Just Dial, right? We're searching for business related to your business, and you might appear in the search result because Just Dial is extremely popular. So the chances of you're visible in Google is relatively much higher than your website in the first page ranking. This is extremely important. I hope this point is clear, right? All small businesses should have a presence or an account in Google My Business so that you can start appearing in the search results of Google local search. So if someone is searching for restaurant in Kolkata, and if your business is listed in Google My Business, you might get a lot of search traffic. Okay? Your business should have a Google Maps presence so that customers can reach your store in a nice manner without bothering to call you as well. Right? Then Just Dial, like I mentioned, is extremely important for B2C businesses, especially. And if you are into B2B business, then listing your business would help as well, because means people from all over the world might be interested in the products you have to offer. And there might be industry associations, and if their portals are managed and attain good
I'm
traffic.
noticing a break in the voice. Mansi, are you also experiencing that?
Yes,
Is
Snigdha.
it better?
Yeah. Sandeep, just in the last 2-3 minutes, there are certain breaks in the voice.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I was mentioning that various industry associations also have portals, right? So they also act like as directories for various businesses of the members. So for example, MCCI website might be giving some search traffic to its members' businesses if all the details have been published. Right? Because promoting individual website takes a lot of time and effort. But if you can piggyback on existing directory portals like Just Dial or IndiaMart or associations, it can give you a lot of search traffic. And also, if you can spend some money and identify the right publishers who will allow you to create a micro website in their portal, it could be extremely useful as well. For example, uh, Femina is a magazine, right, popular for women, right? There's a lot of readership for Femina. So if Femina has a website and Biba is a brand, right? So Biba obviously might be having their own website, but Biba might reach out to Femina that, hey, on your portal, I want to put 100 web pages of Biba. So that itself will lead to more traffic for Biba because Femina web pages will be appearing in Google search results, and Biba will benefit out of it as well.
How easy is it to get into these arrangements, Sandeep? I mean, for a solopreneur, is it possible to liaison with, such publishers and companies, or do you do it through an agency?
I think the client has to be personally involved. Even if the agency there is there, the client should be in the loop, right? And it is about the policies of the media company that you're trying to approach. If they accept advertorials, if they accept paid reviews, or if they accept micro websites, then it's a revenue stream for them. Obviously,
Yes.
you negotiate hard, right? Maybe uh, 10 micro entrepreneurs can come together and negotiate great rates via media publisher, right? So that is where the power of collective comes into play as well, right? Now coming to the last portion, and we'll be wrapping up in probably another 10 minutes, so that we have about 10 minutes for question and answer as well, right? We are supposed to wrap up at 6, I think.
Yes. Yes.
So now I'll quickly be covering regarding some e-commerce elements, right? So I think as a solopreneur or a micro entrepreneur, one should not start selling on their own independent website. It's a very hard process, right? It will take more time and effort. It should be done, but at a later stage. My recommendation would be to try and sell on existing platforms, on existing marketplaces like Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal, ShopClues. These are horizontal e-commerce platforms. They will take care of, they already taking care of the technology. They are already taking care of the marketing. Their logistics partners are already in place. Customer support is in place. All you need to focus is timely delivery of the products and services products once you get the order, right? So one should leverage these horizontal e-commerce platforms. And apart from the horizontal e-commerce platforms, now obviously there are so many vertical e-commerce platforms as well. For example, for April's Myntra and Craftsvilla, and there might be few more. I'm just trying to share the top of the mind recall. For groceries, Big Basket and Grofers is there. For pharmacy, Netmeds and Pharmeasy is there. For food, Swiggy and Zomato is there. So for all the home bakers, right, means you are leaving money on the table if you are not listing yourself on Swiggy and Zomato, because you'll get so many orders through them. And if you are into education and training businesses, then now marketplaces have cropped up for via Byju's live classes. Upgrad is there, and we are doing a very young startup by the name of Air Vidya, wherein means training programs. If you are an instructor and have expertise in certain areas, we can enable your courses or even live sessions on our platform as well, right? Sorry for this shameless promotion, but just thought
No,
of sharing.
not at all.
And reseller e-commerce platforms as well. I'm sure some of you might have heard about Meesho, Glowroad, Shop 101. So they have very large communities of women resellers, right? And as a brand, you can get in touch with these companies and have your products uploaded over there. Just like you sell on Flipkart, you might sell via Meesho and Glowroad as well. And once you have kind of exhausted the opportunities in the existing platforms, right, your processes have been set, then for obviously better margins, for better branding and visibility, you start investing on your own sales channel as well. If you already have an offline store, you need to think and plan well so that your online and offline sales channels are well integrated, right? Because if you have a stock in your store and you get an online order, and by the time you get the order, that product is out of stock, you have already sold through your store to some other customer, then you will not be able to serve that order. So as soon as your inventory is sold via your store, it should automatically go away from your online store, right? So such smart integrations have to be done as well. And the technology again means there are means enough companies like Shopify, WooCommerce, Magento, and it's not a big deal to get your portal up and running in a matter of even a week's time. Some agencies might tell you that we will do custom development for you. One should not go for custom development, right? Unless you have some really innovative features and stuff. You have one should go for these standard platforms like Shopify or WooCommerce. And also you need to ensure that your portal is working well on the mobile browser. And if you have the budget, then invest on the mobile apps. If your product is only targeted towards a luxury segment, maybe you will not develop the Android version. You might develop only the iOS version for iPhone customers, because obviously you are already catering to a luxury segment. But otherwise, for under normal circumstances, if you're targeting normal consumers, then always go for Android apps first. iOS apps can be developed later if you have the budget. So once you have sorted the technology out, your technology is ready, you start uploading your products. Marketing is a huge challenge, right? Developing the website, I think, is relatively easy. It can be done even within 1 week. But how do you bring customers to your portal? For that, we have to do so many things that we discussed, right? Google AdWords, we did not discuss much, but Google has an advertising platform so that you can appear in the sponsored ads section at the top or at the bottom. Whenever we type a query in Google, we see the ad spot, right? 1 or 2 ad spots are there, and then the normal search results come. So you can spend on Google AdWords, social media, you can spend or build communities, search engine optimization. You might invest in building your own reseller network for your own brand. Leveraging Meesho is great, but what if you build a community of 50,000 women resellers pan India who are selling your products, right? It will be a great thing. It's a great thing for those women resellers. They are making a handsome margin selling your products, and you have developed a new sales channel for yourself, for your brand, right?
So, Sandeep, it often happens, like suppose I would have searched an induction cooker, right? And I may not have placed an order today, but I have done a search. Tomorrow morning, when I open my Facebook, I'm constantly getting prompted for induction cookers. So that means that the induction cooker company has spent that money to kind of reach out to me, isn't it?
Your behavior, your browsing history, and then they are targeting the advertisement.
Yes, yes. Your voice is breaking, Sandeep.
Yeah, so I hope it is better now.
Yes, better now. Yeah.
So obviously technology marketing for your online sales channel is important. Then one has to take care of logistics as well, right? Because now everything is your responsibility. And some of the logistics partners could be Shiprocket, Delivery. India Post may not be sounding very exciting, but the last mile reach is the best, right? Means some pin codes may not be serviced by many large private companies, including FedEx or Blue Dart, but India Post will deliver your parcel to the remotest corner of the country as well. So that was a great, interesting learning for us. Payment gateways are there, Paytm, Razorpay, Cash Free. It's not a big problem nowadays. And cash on delivery, I forgot to add, whenever you are offering, because in our e-commerce experience, approximately 80-85% of the orders was cash on delivery. Only a minor share was the online transactions. And cash collection is also done by various companies. Okay, the logistics partners would collect the cash also. There are customer support tools as well. Freshdesk is there. Then if you are getting a lot of phone calls as well, then you might invest in dialer tele support services as well, right? And for accounting, means a lot of data will be dumped in Excel sheets. So you have to develop an automated process to convert the Excel data into Tally if you are using Tally as an accounting software. So Excel to Tally is a great software which you can leverage. So means in these couple of slides, means I've highlighted the most of the interesting partnerships that you will need to have. And now final just couple of generic suggestions from my end, and then we'll open up for questions, right? We have just 10 minutes. So Snigdha, means solopreneurs is a great term, but also consider, means can we start using more of micro entrepreneurs, or means, because with solopreneurs you have so much of responsibility, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if one can build teams, right, and work in teams, the organization can take a better shape. But identifying co-founders, building a team, especially with, means at the initial stage, is a great challenge. The business is not ready. Identifying a like-minded partner with the same vision is very difficult, right? But the advantages of single owner companies is, one major advantage is a rapid decision making process. You believe in yourself, you know what needs to be done, you continuously means take rapid decisions, because once you have a management team in place, then different people will have different opinions, it will slow down the execution process, right? But the advantages of having partners or co-founders, more ideas and plans on the table, company runs smoothly. If one faces any emergency, there is a fallback person to take care when you are not there, and you have someone to share the stress and the risk of loss of capital also in case the business is not profitable. क्योंकि जरूरी नहीं है कि business successful होगा और profit देगा, right? You might realize that after 2 years of hard work, it is still generating loss. So अगर दोनों partner ने equally invest किया होगा, so that risk will also be shared equally. और अगर profit होगा, which is why everyone is working hard, then both the parties will share the profits as well. And my recommendation again is that if you find partners with similar values and vision, form a team at the initial stage itself. Otherwise, akla chalo re, means as the theme goes, you cannot just wait and wait for partners. You have to just keep on marching, and then along the way you will build the team as well with the right incentives of salaries and stock options or shares. And various solopreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs, I've come across, many of them are already in a happy zone, right? Means they are taking excellent care of their family, they are working for their passion, it is giving some additional income to their family income, and they're happy. They don't want to scale to the next level, and it is perfectly fine. It's their choice, right? Why should one, means, try to build a multi-crore business if they're happy with their current state, right? Especially when they are multitasking and already taking on so many other responsibilities also, right? So one should, if someone is in that happy zone, and if they see a fellow woman entrepreneur trying to grow the business in a rapid manner, someone who's very ambitious, then one should not get disheartened, right? One should remain in that happy zone and enjoy that space. And in fact, they should support the more ambitious women in whatever way they can. And if someone is ambition, it means if someone is ambitious, and if they have the fire in the belly, they have the need, and if they have the passion and the urge to build a multi-crore business or a very large scale business, right? Then one has to sacrifice on some fronts, maybe on the family front. The number of working hours will go up. Then don't let the guilt hurt you, because again, you have made that choice of putting in those extra hours to grow your business. And then you need to find champions in your family and friends who will believe in you and will support you along the way. And also, don't let anyone stop you from chasing your dreams, right? So that's it from my end. And once again, means hats off to all the multitasking women. And I hope many of you would remain in your happy zone, and many of you will also go ahead and chase your dreams and do dare to try, do dare to fail, and many of you hopefully will succeed as well. All the best. That's it from my end, and I'll be happy to take more questions.
Very nice and encouraging words, Sandeep. I mean, the amount of information that you have packed into this session is really unbelievable. I think a lot of things for people who are starting out or those who have already started out to actually go back and look up. I loved your concept of the power of 50 and to start communities on social media. These are things that you can simply do, and really make an impact in whichever field you may be without any investment, without anything. So I just had one question, Sandeep. When is the right time to kind of start investing into, maybe not trying to grow organically, but getting an agency or a company to help you with it? When is it a timeline kind of a thing, 3 months, 6 months, or, how do you take that decision?
See, once you have got the positive feedback from your power of 50, right? Once your processes are in place, right? I think that would be the right time to start engaging and working on a roadmap to grow your means company for sales, right? Because unless the basic hygiene is in place, investing too much money upfront and not being able to service your customers, right? Because suppose you have a marketing budget of 5 lakhs per month, but in the very first month, if you have not built the customer support team to handle the calls, it's not a great idea. Maybe in the third month, it will make sense, right? So
Yeah.
again, it will vary from case to case, but having the most important hygiene factors in place and then gradually ramping up your marketing spend would make sense. And obviously engaging agencies and working closely with them.
Absolutely.
Having knowledge, but having knowledge is very crucial, and ensuring that performance based delivery is crucial, because many agencies will love to spend the marketing but not be held responsible for sales or leads, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
There's a question from Unnati. Can you elaborate on the networking forums which you mentioned, such as the BNI, GBC, and WBC?
sure. So BNI is a means a very powerful networking platform. It's a global platform, and I think in Calcutta itself they might be having 8 to 10 chapters or maybe even more, right?
Mhm.
And in each chapter there are potentially 80 to 100 members, right? Uh, Obviously, the annual cost is slightly on the higher side, but it's a very engaged. Every week they have breakfast meetings. So to cover the costs, the means the cost and the annual membership would be higher. And for GBC, it's a women-only entrepreneur community. Okay, and we have been there for the past 3.5 4 years. We have organized more than 100 events in the past few years. We have earlier we had two physical chapters because we were having two meetups, one near Minto Park area, one in the Salt Lake area. But now we have a uniform single group, okay, and means the size is about 35-40 members, but we have a reach of more than 1,000 women entrepreneurs. And what we have done, another very interesting thing, we have a large social media community of 80,000 women consumers as well. We have a Facebook group of about 3,500 plus women in Calcutta. On our Facebook page, we have 80,000 plus women consumers as well, right? And the WBC groups, means the free communities on WhatsApp. We have about 400, 500 women entrepreneurs on our WhatsApp groups as well, right? And like I said, means these are interesting forums to participate in and grow your sales referrals. And the cost is minimal. Means cost is minimal. Usually the cost very easily. You're on mute.
So sorry. There's a question from Shivika and also from Unnati. How can we go about joining WBC and GBC?
So you have note down my contact details. My mobile number is 98319 Okay. Just send me a WhatsApp message with your name and we'll send you the details. Whenever we have our next Zoom meeting, we will invite you as well. So my contact again, I'm highlighting over here. It's 9831109. So anyone who is interested, any woman entrepreneur who is interested in being a part of our WBC or GBC communities, please reach out to me. We have women leaders as well. Reena Agarwal from Learning Impulse, Sheetal Agarwal from Mamaya Kitchen Hub, Neha Chaucharia, who runs a travel company and financial services company. So we have built a leaders community as well. Okay. And in fact, the GBC leaders are now also moderating and becoming leaders of WBC communities. So it's a very interesting model that we have developed. So once you become a member of GBC, we ensure that you get leadership qualities developed and become admins and leaders of WBC communities.
Great. Mansi, anything from you?
No, he's actually answered everything that was there in my head.
Wonderful.
And very, very useful session. I mean, there's so many things I was thinking of. We were also thinking of working on a website. And I
Yeah.
really like the piggyback. And I think it's very, very informative, today's session, especially for people like us who are really not there, but trying to promote themselves more and more. So thank you so much. It was very informative.
Absolutely.
And I also think means as one of the leading organizations for women, right? MCCI Ladies Forum, then there are other women forums as well. And if 4-5 such women forums come together, work with GBC and create some common platforms, right? Means women entrepreneurship can be promoted in really a big way. But yeah, means a lot of hard work is involved as well. And the will has to be there by the leadership of all these organizations. I don't want to take names of different organizations, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And I think here in Kolkata, I mean, I came here, marriage brought me here. And I see this amazing desire to be entrepreneurs here, you know, more than professionals. And which is why we're in the right place. And I also see that women support each other. You know, I would be happy to order something from a homegrown women-oriented startup in Kolkata rather than choosing something from the big brand if I know that the quality is good. So, you know, and I think that attitude exists amongst many of us. And I really thank you once again, Sandeep, for this very enlightening session. As you would all know, that Sandeep is really, you know, very, very well, highly knowledgeable in this area. He also has his own course. So please feel free to reach out to him if you all need any individual help. And also do take interest in the networks that he has set up and join them and be a part of it. And thank you all for your patience. It was a 1.5 hour long session. So I really thank you for staying around and, you know, attending the entire session. Thank you so much, Sandeep. It was a pleasure to have you here and to hear everything that you had to say. Sandeep's screen is frozen. Sandeep, are you there? Mansi, you can hear me, right? Okay. Must be some issue with his internet. Okay, anyways, we can end the meeting now. Once again, thank you to all the participants. A very good evening to all of you. Bye-bye.